Hello again, everyone. Jay Saki here. Giles, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered.
All right. We are going to talk about Blade Runner from 1982, and I'm not even sure where to begin with this one.
How about a bit of backstory on the film? The film Blade Runner itself was based on the Philip K. Dick book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And watching the film and reading the book, I feel like you would get more out of the film if you had read the book, but it's not
Oh,
necessary.
so you have read the book.
I have read the book, yes.
I keep seeing Philip K. Dick's name show up on all kinds of projects, and I'm like, okay, he gets around. I did not realize he was such a big deal.
He was a seminal sci-fi writer, along with Isaac Asimov and a few other people. Kind of set the stage for modern science fiction, especially things like cyberpunk-themed stories, which Blade Runner dips into.
I always think of the guy who wrote Starship Troopers whenever I think of, as you put it, seminal sci-fi writers. Okay, but more about Blade Runner. I'm thinking this whole review is just gonna have spoilers, so to anyone who's never seen Blade Runner, I think we both highly recommend it and enjoy hearing two people talk about a movie from 1982, I guess. First, let's talk about our history with this movie. I only saw this movie for the first time about 6 years ago, and I heard it was a bit divisive. I heard some people either get it or don't get it, and I mostly really liked it when I saw it 6 years ago. And then I was thinking about recently. I really need to check out Blade Runner 2049 to get an opinion on that one. But then I realized it had been 6 years since I'd seen Blade Runner, so I'm like, yeah, I should really watch it again. So I watched it again very recently.
I watched this film. It's in my top 10 favorite films of all time, so it gets replayed quite often. I have seen the more recent Blade Runner film, and I also like that.
Okay, well, I've not. Maybe we'll talk about that one another time. Okay, I'm trying to think about what to even say about this movie. Mostly, I think I enjoyed it a whole lot even the second time watching it. It's a very fun, atmospheric experience type of story. It's sci-fi film noir, essentially. The story is a bit elongated and dragged out, I think, but it's sort of, I think it's a cliche critic line, but it's sort of a feast for your eyes. It's just a fun movie to watch and just get immersed in the very lived-in world.
Funnily enough, a lot of the scenes, props, and so on were repurposed either from the director's previous film Alien, or funnily enough, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Interesting. I've never seen The Shining.
Oh well, that's another film you have to add to the list. I think going over why Blade Runner exists as a narrative sets the stage better for the film. And again, it's one of those things where it's detailed more in the book, because even though Blade Runner is over 2 hours long, especially the director's cut, it's not going to fit everything from a novel in it.
Okay, well, here's a question just for our unfamiliar audience members who are just watching to hear us talk about this movie. Can you tell us what the movie is about?
The movie is about a former detective who is rehired by the police force, called Deckard. His job as a Blade Runner, as the job is entitled, is to hunt down rogue replicants. Now, replicants are genetically engineered human clones who are designed to be more hardy and resilient than your average human. In a lot of cases, a lot more combat proficient if they are military models. They are also treated as slave labor. They can mimic just about everything a human can do, except for genuine emotion.
Well,
The corporation that made them, the Tyrell Corporation, has installed a failsafe in these replicants, which is a lifespan of 4 years, because they have a theory that if they live for longer than 4 years, they will develop their own emotions.
I think it's specifically the replicants. They can't. They don't have empathy, allegedly.
Empathy is the emotion they test for with the Voigt-Kampff test, which is based off a theory by the mathematician Alan Turing, and you might have heard of the Turing test.
Not sure.
The Turing test is a test used to see if a it's not exactly this, but this is the best explanation I can give. It is a test designed to see if a computer can replicate consciousness.
Okay, interesting.
So the Voigt-Kampff test was theorized by Alan Turing. In the story of Blade Runner itself, the detective, Deckard, is tracking down a group of Nexus 6, which is the latest and greatest of the Tyrell Corporation replicants, who have hijacked a transport, killed the crew, and made their way back to Earth. And replicants are banned on Earth.
Okay, well here's an idea. How about we both talk about why we each personally enjoy and like this movie? I really do like this film a lot. I wish I saw it when I was younger, because when you're younger, I find it easier for certain movies to imprint on your mind and to become like personal favorites. Although I find out the older I get, it's harder to bring new favorite films into my mental roster. So there are certain favorite films of mine that I will watch maybe once every year, once every 2 years. If I saw Blade Runner at an earlier age, I think maybe this would be one of those movies I'd watch once a year. But you only have so much time in your life to watch movies. But okay, so my favorite film of all time is Sunset Boulevard, and that's even though that film was not intended to be a noir movie exactly, it basically fits the formula. It's a black comedy that's basically a film noir, and it's film noir with a dark descent in it, and so that's my favorite movie of all time. And then I watch, Blade Runner, and Blade Runner is essentially a film noir with a dark descent. And to me, just watching the movie, I watched the movie like a great feast. Just watching Deckard, go through tracking down the replicants in this dark, gross, lived-in, rainy, futuristic city, and you just enjoy the immersion. And I'm not sure why that's enough. That might not be enough for some people, but I think it's enough for me. I have some criticisms of the film that I'll bring up later, but that's basically my thing with the movie. It's just a great dark descent experience film, and that's all it had to be for me. How about you? What's your history with it? Like, when did you first see the movie, and what is it about the film that makes you like it?
I can't remember exactly when I first saw it. It must have been somewhere in my teenage years. I remember reading the book not long after and then going back to the film. I really do like the visual feast that is Blade Runner. It looks fantastic. Though what I really enjoy about it is it asks so many difficult philosophical questions about life and what is and isn't moral. In a sense.
May I quickly ask, is that actually what you like about it, or is that just a little addition? Because for me, that element has almost nothing to do with why I like the movie. It's everything else that I like the movie for.
Oh yeah, no, I really do enjoy the question of it's a moral question, because we're making these in the future. We are making these replicants, which are for all intents and purposes human. And we are treating them as literal slave labor, which are disposable. No one cares if they die. They have no rights, etc. And we have specifically designed a system to kill them before they can start feeling emotions. And that is a big part of Roy Batty's character, in that, at least from my interpretation, it's left a little vague, but he's started to develop his own emotions, and I believe he has become fearful of his own death.
Well, I want to ask a few more questions. So, whenever you first saw this movie as a teenager, when did you realize how much you loved the movie? Like, was it from the first time you saw it, or did it take a few viewings?
I think it was the second time, because the first time I was just more enraptured by how good it looked. And I really wasn't paying so much attention to the philosophical quandary that was the film. And then I read the book, and then I watched the film again, and I said, you could get more out of it if you had read the book, but I think the film does a good job of standing on its own with hints and context clues and so on. But it portrays a very bleak version of the future. It's 2019, of course. We all
Yes,
remember when
yes.
2019 was the horrible future. But yeah, I actually think I liked it better on the second viewing when I got time to mull over the story and what the story was trying to present.
Okay, so here's where I think you and I are going to differ a lot. So yeah, the movie has this theme with the replicants of like, what does it mean to be living or or to be consciously aware, I guess? Is that a good way of saying it?
That's one of the questions, yes. Like, what does it mean to be alive?
Technically, that is a deep question, and everyone should think about that. That being said, I did not think the movie was that deep in terms of that question. To me, the movie mostly just brings it up and puts it out there, and it's like, oh, okay, you brought it up the question of what does it mean to be alive? It says it doesn't really answer it, and then it moves on. And I find it just I found its execution of the theme to be really bland, and it's the only thing. And I don't watch the movie for the theme. I didn't take its execution of the theme very seriously.
The whole question of the story is literally, what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be conscious? And that is Batty's, the replicant's entire quest. I mean, yes, he is looking to extend his life, but that's only because he's become aware of his mortality. Does being alive mean that you are aware of your mortality, or is it something else? The film and the original book, they are left ambiguous because it's meant to pose the question, not answer it.
Well, yes, there was someone who once said that if you try to answer it, then the audience will say, okay, and they'll move on with their lives. But if you leave it open-ended, it brings the audience back to think about the theme more. I don't mind that. I don't mind that they don't answer it. I just find it very mundane. Maybe it's because going into this movie, I'll bet there's a lot of people who watch this movie and they probably believe, oh my goodness, the replicants are living people just like us. And instantly, I'm already like, the replicants are artificial intelligence. They are essentially androids or robots. They're not really living. I already know and believe that, so.
Well, they're androids in the classical sense of the term, which means an artificially created human. They are biological beings.
Well,
They are grown in vats, and instead of being born, they have a thing called an inset date, which is when they're removed from the vat. So they are biological creatures.
Okay, I didn't get that out of the movie. So you're saying they're more like clones than they are robots?
Yes, they are genetically engineered clones.
Well, maybe the movie has pulled one over on me. I took them to be super complex androids. That's how I perceived it in the movie.
No, they are genetically engineered humans, and if a part of the story that's mentioned as a context clue in the film, but it goes into more detail in the book, is that on Earth, animals have become extinct. That's why you see so many animals being sold, and they're either literally robots or they're genetically engineered. They are literally replicant, and they are replicant animals. And we have replicant humans, which we use as disposable slave labor.
Okay, like there's the owl. Why didn't they just call the owl a clone instead of a replicant? It would have made it so much easier.
It's actually because originally they were called androids, and when they were making the film, they thought people would confuse android to mean robot, which the author didn't use that meaning of the term. He meant the original meaning of android, which means artificial human or artificial life form. That doesn't necessarily mean robotic, because in this case they are genetic clones. So in this case, the owl is a genetic clone because all owls are dead. They're extinct.
Okay, it's like this. One, if they're androids, I already know they don't have souls. So yes, androids and robots are inferior to humans. If the replicants are essentially, cloned people, yeah, they certainly do have souls then, or they should, even though cloning is just evil.
That's one of the moral quandaries of the film, though. We are literally creating humans in a lab to work as slave labor and die off-world.
Okay, well, obviously that's evil. See,
Indeed.
I feel like the moral questions are just not that complex, or they're way too unrelatable, or too, what's the word? Theoretical?
I think you have to take the story for what it is, because you have to look at how everyone is seemingly okay with these androids, being disposable slave labor, and it has come to the point, it gives the impression that in the future, life has become so disposable that we are willing to just make it and throw it away.
Maybe. I just didn't think it was asking those questions. I don't know. See, here's the thing. I like this movie a lot, and I give a strong recommendation. And I love like the twist at the end, which we will not spoil for anyone who really wants to watch it or whoever picks up on it. But the philosophical stuff is just kind of like, I already have my own opinions on this. It's not making me a better person or making me ask questions I haven't already thought about. Maybe there's someone who's gonna see Blade Runner and they will have like a spiritual conversion to righteousness. Just not me.
I think you should really read the book, because it gives a lot more context as to the questions in the film and why they are posed.
But we're not talking about the book, though. Okay, I'm sure the book is great. We're just talking about the movie.
I know. It's just one of those things where one has more context than the other.
But okay, we're always getting too far ahead of ourselves. How about Harrison Ford in this? This is like one of his best roles, I think.
Funnily enough, he hated doing this film. And it's not because of the director, and it's not because it was a very difficult film to act. There was a lot of studio interference.
Yeah, okay, we should talk about this really quickly. Did you think that this is one of Harrison Ford's best roles?
I think this is one of his best roles, even though I don't want to bring up the book, but the author said this is the person I would want to play Deckard.
Oh, nice. Well, that is fun information, though. I love how... Yeah, Harrison Ford is very unique in this movie. I love the part where he's hunting down the very first replicant, and he's like, does like this sleazy journalist thing, like, hi, I'm here with the Department of such and such, we wanted to investigate whatever, and I wanted to make sure that no peeping Toms was around. He puts on this very like quirky, sleazy accent, it's like tone of voice, and it's like, I've never heard Harrison Ford do anything like that in any movie he's ever in. He usually, after he got typecasted, he basically became Harrison Ford man. Yeah, he definitely had a very unique performance in this one.
He has a lot more range in this film than the traditional action America man that he would become in sort of Indiana Jones and so on.
Exactly. Okay, so this film had multiple versions of it. I'm aware that there was the original theatrical version where the studio did not like the dour ending. Not that it was that dour, but they didn't like how they had Ridley Scott do tack on some quick ending that's a happy ending or an explicitly happy ending. And I don't know how that got received at the time, but then when being released to home video, there was like multiple versions of it.
Yeah, there are multiple versions of this film, and I would actually go with the extended cut, just because it puts everything back into it, and it's what the director and even the actors preferred. Harrison Ford, for example, did not want to do the narration.
Yes.
Of the film, but the producers basically contractually forced him to do it.
Yeah, they wanted to push the whole detective noir thing, like it was a dark, stormy night. The broad walked in on high heels, whatever. Like they had Harrison Ford doing some kind of a thing like that, and I think he hated it so much he deliberately read the narration poorly. The two cuts that eventually they got the director's cut and then the final cut from like 2005 or something. And I've only ever seen the final cut.
I've seen what was called the extended cut, which is the almost 3-hour long cut.
Good heavens.
Yeah, that has everything put back into it, and you can tell, I think it was like the special Blu-ray release, and you can tell because some of the film footage has been touched up to try and make it look Blu-ray quality, but it really isn't.
Okay, the one I watched is the final cut, which was the one in 2007, which Ridley Scott said was the one which Ridley Scott said is basically to him the definitive version. The 2007 final cut. That's only 2 hours long. Is there a There's an extended cut, you're telling me?
Yes.
The only other cut is the director's cut from '92, but that's 116 minutes. Is there a 3-hour cut somewhere?
I'm gonna have to find it.
Quick, go ahead. Do some little research over there. I have the Wikipedia page pulled up of all the different versions. There's no 3-hour cut that's showing up.
Ah, I see. Yeah, no, the extended cut is the final cut, but it is a Blu-ray with all the extended features put into the film.
Oh, okay. So there's a final cut and then another final cut with an hour more worth of scenes?
Yes.
Well, I get.
There's a Ultra HD Blu-ray. It's the 2017, and it was released with the final and theatrical cut, both on the same CD.
Interesting. Okay, so that to you is the best version then.
If it was just version that is easily available, final cut would be the best version.
Oh, okay. But what about the extended cut you were just telling me about?
That's just a personal favorite, and just because it adds in a lot of these little extras that were taken out because of just various issues, because they didn't necessarily fit, time, they weren't shot properly, they were filler, etc.
But you do recommend the extended cut, right?
Yes. Though the extended cut is literally just the final cut with added in stuff that really doesn't need to be there.
I'm trying to figure out if you're endorsing which. Okay, well, to me, the final cut is the one that everyone says to watch. I might check out this mythological extended cut sometime.
I'll see if I can find the actual Blu-ray for you, but it was released in 2017.
See, anything else about this film that we should talk about?
Other than Rutger Hauer doing a very good job as the antagonist, Roy Batty. We talk about, how this is being one of the
okay. So that guy, anytime I see him, I'm always like, oh, he's the guy from Lady Hawk.
Rutger Hauer playing the titular antagonist of the film.
Yeah, I've only all my life seen him in Lady Hawk, and then it was not until Blade Runner someone's like, oh yeah, he plays that one guy. I'm like, oh good heavens. And I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. Okay, I'm looking up his filmography. He was in Batman Begins. Good heavens, is he the guy who takes over Wayne Enterprises in Batman Begins? Or the guy who Bruce Wayne has to get his father's company back from? Okay, interesting.
I don't remember.
Whatever, he's in Batman Begins. Yeah, I just know him as the guy from Lady Hawk. And now he's in Blade Runner.
He was in City of Lost Children.
Don't know it.
True Blood.
I can't remember if I've seen True Blood or not. It looks like I've not seen most of his movies.
He was in Sin City.
Yeah, I have seen that. I can't recall who he plays in that.
He was the corrupt cardinal.
Oh, okay. Whatever. There. He's been in a million movies, but I've seen him in nothing.
He was in Turkish Delight, which actually got him the role as Batty in Blade Runner.
Yeah, I've never seen it. No one has ever seen Turkish Delight.
I have.
Was it any good?
Yes. But another thing about this film, did you know that Blade Runner is canonically within the Aliens universe?
I did not know that. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. Not only is it's directed by Ridley Scott, who did the first Alien film, but if you look at, there are certain passages within the Alien Isolation game and some other parts of the specials on DVDs which directly mention the Tyrell Corporation as existing within the universe.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
It was literally Weyland-Yutani was in a competition with the Tyrell Corporation because Weyland-Yutani in the Aliens universe made actual robotic androids, and he chided Tyrell for making human clones, which inevitably fell out of favor.
Interesting. And Ridley Scott did direct Alien, and he directed this one.
Yeah, and actually used a lot of the same props and some of the footage from Alien in this film.
Yeah, I guess, it's funny. Ridley Scott did direct 2 great movies. Alien and Blade Runner. I mean, he's made a lot more, but, did make 2 iconic ones back there in the 80s.
I mean, Ridley Scott's got he did tons of great movies, including Gladiator, which is outside of his usual sci-fi work.
Also, let's not forget Black Hawk Down. Greatest movie ever made.
I'll debate you on that, but maybe another time. He also was the producer of the recent Alien Romulus film, which is a pretty good return to form for the Alien franchise.
I've not given myself time to watch it. How about, let's look at the other films that came out in 1982. So that year you had, Blade Runner came out, then you had The King of Comedy, Rambo First Blood, The Scarlet Pimpernel, that was a BBC movie, The Thing, and E.T. So, yeah, I had a lot of good films from that year.
It was also a good year for cult films like Poltergeist, The Dark Crystal, Flight of Dragons, Forbidden World.
Oh gosh, Flight of Dragons came out back then?
Oh yeah, 1982. Class of 1984 came out, and we forgot one, Tron.
I have not seen Tron.
You really need to see Tron.
Let me guess, it's one of your top 10 favorite films, right?
Well, I wouldn't say top 10, actually. It was just a seminal film, a sci-fi film for the time.
I'm worried that it's going to melt my brains out. Everything I see of it, it does not make it look good.
It's certainly old.
I get it's a thing, but I'm just so reluctant to wanting to sit down and watch that.
You really should see Tron, the original. It is just such a fun film, especially for Disney.
Maybe someday. But for now, I'm really glad that in summary, I'm glad that I watched Blade Runner again after all these years. It is a very inspiring film. It's the kind of movie that makes you want to write a book. I recommend this film to just about anyone. I mean, since I have family members and friends with children, it's not a kids film, okay? It's a big kids movie. Maybe when the kids are 17, 18, you can watch it as a family and not feel too awkward. Any last thoughts?
The 80s were a great period for films.
They certainly were. Oh, yeah, I think you just answered I was gonna ask the question, what did we learn? But I think you just summed it up right there. We learned that the 80s was a great time for films.
And don't play God.
Yes, that is the message of Blade Runner is don't play God. I have to confess to you, Giles, I'm always trying to play God. It's one of my greatest sins, just playing God every day of my life, and I gotta tell myself, Jay Saki, you gotta stop playing God all the time. You're not God. And I saw Blade Runner, and I'm like, something? I think I can now let go of trying to play God.
Well, as long as you don't create the android apocalypse, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Do you struggle with the sin of trying to play God?
No, I realize that playing God is a sometimes thing.
Just sometimes. Alright, I think that's all we have. Have a good night, everyone. Good night, Giles.
Good night.